What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to part 2 of our 5,000 subscriber special, where we are homebrewing one subclass for every official class in Dungeons & Dragons for 2024. We had a really fun time making 6 subclasses in part 1, and now here we are in part 2 for 6 more. Now, I will say I definitely expected more people to watch the 5,000 subscriber special, so hopefully this one will do a little bit better. But yeah, let me know down below what you were thinking of 2024 rules now that everything is out, now that we have seen what the monster manual is like and how that's been scaled according to how the characters are made now. There's a lot of decent changes here, and so I'm interested to see what you think. Before we jump into things, of course, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded, and share the video with your friends. Just a little update on how we are doing things. Of course, right now, we're going to be going through this. Next week, we're starting back with our How Do I Want to Do This series and going Barbarian all the way to the end once again, and then we will pick up Artificer at the end whenever that comes out eventually. So we've got 5 weeks per class. That's 12 different ones there. Yeah, so that's over a year's worth of content right there. So we're gonna be doing this for a hot minute as well. So yeah, I hope you all are looking forward to that. And of course, we can sprinkle in other stuff here and there. We don't have to do this every single week. If you all want to sprinkle in some 2014 stuff, by all means, we will do that, because I know there are plenty of people who are not switching over, including myself. So that is totally fine. So let's go ahead and jump into the subclasses for today. Today we are doing the Bard, we're doing the Cleric, we are doing the Fighter, the Ranger, the Rogue, and the Wizard. So a lot of ones that are very popular, actually. I did ones last week that I think are, I mean, they all have a lot of popularity, but ones that I felt really inspired initially. And then these were ones that I was like, these are going to take some time to cook. And so that's why we're splitting that up, and because last week's video was an hour long, and I expect this one to be roughly the same. So let's go ahead and jump into it. For the Bard, we are looking at what is called the Bard Tender. The College of Imbibement is what I'm calling it. This was actually a suggestion to me by one of my players, IRL, and I am very excited to be able to bring his idea to life. Now, I have seen some people do something similar to this online, and it's very complicated. I've seen a very complicated way of doing something like this, and I wanted to kind of simplify it down, make it a little more accessible, while also still making it powerful. And so that's really what I have sought out to do today, and I hope you all enjoy that. So let's jump right in. And of course, for all of my channel members, you will have access to write-ups for all of these subclasses today. Also, the ones from last week are already on the drive for you to check out there. So again, just $2 a month at the lowest tier. You get access to all of my build guides, subclass fixes, this homebrew stuff, anything, it's all on there. So make sure to check that out with the join button down below. Kicking us off, we have a couple features at level 3, and the first is Tools of the Trade. Now, this of course has a similar name to something that the Artificer gets, or got anyway. We're not sure where the 2024 one is going to end up after the UA ends, but we'll see. And of course, if you want me to go through all the UA stuff, let me know down in the comments below. But what we're going to get is proficiency in the Insight skill, as well as with Brewer's Supplies. I think that makes a lot of sense. Of course, as a Bard Tender, or College of Imbibement Bard, we're going to be a few things, right? We are going to be running the bar, so we're going to be listening to a lot of stories. We're going to be telling those stories and retelling, which I think is cool. But we're going to be meeting a lot of people, and some of them might be kind of shady. So we're going to be learning how to read people in that way. And of course, that's where Insight comes in. And of course, Brewer's Supplies, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. And in addition, we can add our charisma modifier to any checks that we make with either of these, which I think is very cool as well. Of course, Brewer Supplies and Insight are both not normally charisma-based types of things, and so I think it's nice to be able to use that so that we don't have to worry about being split up, which is really good. The other feature we get is brew on tap, and this is kind of our main feature that we are going to be getting. So now, whenever we use our Bardic Inspiration, we can choose a drink from this list that I have made. Again, the list is all visible to all of the members. And so, whenever a Bardic Inspiration is expended by the creature, it also gains the corresponding additional effect. So you're going to choose the drink when you give the Bardic Inspiration to whoever, and then of course when it is expended, there's going to be an additional effect with it. So I've got 5 drinks here that we can choose from. Number 1 is a Bloody Mary. Creature's walking speed is increased by 10 feet for 1 minute. Number 2 is a Cosmopolitan. A creature gains advantage on saving throws against the Charmed and Frightened conditions for 1 minute. Number 3 is an Old Fashioned. A creature gains resistance to one of the following damage types: cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, and the creature gets to choose that. Next up is a Margarita. The creature gains Heroic Inspiration, which I think is always useful, but if the creature already has it, then maybe we don't need to do it. And finally, we have a Mojito. The creature gains temporary hit points equal to twice the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die. All of those, I think, are potentially very, very useful. They don't really need to scale. I think all of them are really nice. The temp HP one is really the only one that does scale, and that's of course going to scale with your Bardic Inspiration die, which I think is pretty cool, and I think it works out well and will serve you this whole way. So I tried to pick things that are going to be as applicable as possible through all of the levels, and I think that we've achieved that with all of these choices. At level 6, we are going to get 2 features as well, and the first one is going to be Magical Concoction. As a magic action, we can cast a Bard spell that we have prepared and place it within a drink that we make with our brewer's supplies. The spell has to have a casting time of 1 action, can only target 1 creature, and cannot be a ritual. For the next hour, any creature of our choice that drinks that spell-infused drink as a bonus action, again, not all things in the PHB are specified to be on a bonus action. It's very strange because potions of healing are specified to be on a bonus action. Nothing else is. Very weird, right? Very, very weird. So I'm specifying here, you can drink this as a bonus action, or whoever can drink this as a bonus action. So there you go. And it will of course gain the effects as normal. If the spell requires concentration, the drinker is going to be the one that maintains concentration. If the spell is not consumed within an hour, or a creature that you do not wish to drink it attempts to drink it, it will actually just lose its infusion. So that way you're not going to be making, say, a haste drink, and then the BBEG tries to drink it and then gains haste, and then it's over, right? So we're at least getting rid of that possibility. And you don't have to do anything for that. But again, it runs out after an hour. That is just so that you don't end up stacking them like crazy. And then, of course, once you do this, you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest. So it's just to make sure that you don't have a ton of hastes that can all just be happening at the same time, right? All within the first round of combat or right before. So that's pretty much what that is, but still could be very, very useful. Also at level 6, we get On the House. And so we can now also use our brewer supplies instead of an herbalism kit to make potions of healing or potions of greater healing. That I think is a big deal, right? I think that we can make drinks essentially that, and we can flavor it as some kind of drink that functions the same way, and so we can use that instead. And when we do it that way, it costs half as much time and gold. I think that's very important. I think that's really, really nice and gives you a really, really nice utility option within the party. Bards are already really strong, right? Bards are already good, and this just gives you that much more utility that you can use, which I think is fun. I think it's really cool, really, really cool. And finally, at level 14, we got Drinks on Me. When a creature gains one of the benefits from your Brew on Tap feature, you also gain the same benefit as long as you're within 60 feet of the creature. Additionally, you can now create potions of superior healing as well as any other potion in the Dungeon Master's Guide of rare rarity or less using the On the House feature. I think that's really cool, and it gives you kind of that alchemist kind of feel with the Artificer, and I think it's cool. I think it's really cool how you can weave in there the potion making with the drink making and really give you that utility feature. I'll probably will have to update this as new books come out and new potions come out and that kind of thing. I'm assuming that the next book is going to be an Eberron book since the Artificer is in it, and so maybe there will be some new things to include in there. But at least for now, the Dungeon Master's Guide is going to be the go-to on that. So yeah, that is the College of Imbibement Bard. And as for all of these, let me know what you think down below. Next up is going to be the Vanity domain Cleric. So let me get over to that and we will look at this. This is going to be kind of the Bardy Cleric, sort of. This is going to be based on things like Sune, right? That are based on beauty and that kind of thing. So that may be something that you worship as a Vanity domain Cleric. But yeah, your goal can be one of a few things. You might just be all about yourself and just might be a horrible person, or you are here to bring light to a very ugly and dark world, and that I think is also very noble. So there are a couple ways that you could take this, and I think any of them are valid. So at level 3, we're gonna get a couple of things. Actually, we're gonna get 3 things. Number 1, we're gonna get Beautiful Soul. We can add wisdom instead of charisma when making performance and persuasion checks, and we also gain proficiency in those skills. I think that is really good. We're going to be using some charisma-based things, and normally charisma is pretty much a dump stat for your clerics, so this will at least help us out in that way. At level 3, we also get Charming Presence, and so as a magic action, we can expend our Channel Divinity in order to gain the favor of those around us. We can force a number of creatures equal to our Wisdom modifier to make a Wisdom saving throw, and on a failure, those targets are charmed for a number of minutes equal to our Cleric level, and any creature that successfully saves is going to be immune to it for 24 hours. I think this is good. Being able to have this like explosive charm effect, I think is really, really good. 30 feet all around you is a really good range. I don't think there's a whole lot of a downside to this, honestly. I think it's really good. So definitely a really cool. And obviously, if they save against it, can't do it for 24 hours, but still, I still think it's worth it. Still at least worth looking at as a Channel Divinity option. Our final level 3 feature, of course, is going to be our domain spells, and so every domain is going to get these. So we're going to grab Charm Person and Tasha's Hideous Laughter from first level, Enthrall and Mirror Image for the next one, because Enthrall, of course, look at me, Mirror Image, there are more of me's to look at. We get Major Image, I can make a bigger me, I guess. Tongues, you have to talk to me. Charm Monster, you love me as a monster. Compulsion, you're going to do what I say because look at me. Mislead, I think, is an interesting one. Definitely one that doesn't get a whole lot of love, but I think it's cool. And really what sparked all of this is the new Regal Presence feature. I really like Regal Presence. I think it's cool. I think it's a really interesting spell, and it definitely can work out. So yeah, we are going to grab that at 9th level, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. It's a new one. Make sure to check that out in 2024. Really cool stuff. At level 6, we're only going to get one thing, and that is going to be Beauty in Death. We have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that is charmed by us, and additionally, if a creature is charmed by us, it has disadvantage on saving throws against the spells we cast. Basically, this is I'm going to charm you, and then I'm going to blow you up, right? So you have to be careful when you do this, right? Because you're not going to really be able to pull this off necessarily off the bat. So this is going to be I'm going to charm something, and then it's like, all right, we're taking this thing down, right? So you got to be really careful with this. This is not going to be applicable in every situation, but this is if you charm something and then you turn on it, you at least get a really good jump on that creature, which is good. And finally, we have level 14, Aura of Distraction. Your ability to manipulate those around you reaches new heights. As a bonus action, you can gain an otherworldly charming presence of your choice for 1 minute or until you are incapacitated. For the duration, if a creature within 60 feet of you that you can see takes the attack or magic action to cause harm to any creature of your choice, that creature must make a charisma saving throw against your spell saving throw DC. On a failed save, all attacks made until the end of that creature's turn are made at disadvantage, and any creature that is subject to a saving throw from a magic action then gains advantage on that saving throw. On a successful save, of course, those are made as normal, but the creature takes 2d10 psychic damage for its troubles. So yeah, I think that's cool. And then of course it recharges on a short or long rest. I think it's cool. I think maybe this could be something that is a wisdom modifier times per day, possibly. I could see it being used a little bit more. And I think that this cleric is possibly on the more underpowered side. I don't think that it's anything crazy by any means. I think it's more fun, more of a fun kind of mix between bard and cleric. And of course, cleric is already plenty powerful enough as is. So very, very cool. You're just going to be the most popular of clerics, which is a lot of fun. Next up, we have our fighter, and this is one that I sent out a community post about, and I got one response. So if there was something you wanted to see, then well, it's too late. You didn't say anything, so it is what it is. I do put out community posts quite a bit, so of course, if there's something out there that you want to see, and I put out a community post, put something in the comments so that I can know what you want. I won't know if there's nothing there. So this is what has gotten chosen. This is the Shield-Maiden Fighter, which is really cool. I'm also calling it the Knight in Shining Armor, so that way, you know, whoever you are, you can be this. And so this is cool. I think that it's a really, really interesting way of focusing on a shield instead of focusing on the sword or the javelin or the, you know, whatever. I think it's cool, and I really had fun coming up with interesting ways of buffing up a shield, which I think is pretty cool. So let's take a look here. At level 3, we're gonna get a couple of things. Number 1 is Defense Breaker. So our shield becomes a weapon that we can choose as an option with our weapon mastery. It is a simple melee weapon, and it has the push mastery property as well as the finesse property, which I think is really interesting. So that way we can be a dex fighter, and you'll see why I want to open up this option here in just a second. You can use your shield to make an attack as a bonus action on your turn. It deals bludgeoning damage equal to a number of d4s equal to your second wind column. That, I think, is an interesting way of scaling things through the fighter, and I love it. Honestly, I think it's really, really fair. I think it's great, and it helps us to do that proficiency bonus times per day thing while making it proficiency bonus times per day locked to a specific class, which I think is great. I think that's really, really cool. So that's kind of what we're doing with this. So really cool. And of course, again, once you want to push people to just solely take the one class, that's what this is going to do. It's going to get better as we take more fighter levels. It's disincentivizing going elsewhere, which is really good. We gain advantage on this attack if we have moved at least 10 feet in a straight line towards the creature prior to the attack. And when we are level 15 in this class, we roll d6s instead of d4s, which is a lot of damage. Actually, it's really cool. So yeah, this now interacts with weapon mastery, and I think that is a really, really cool thing. Weapon mastery is kind of the one thing that we're trying to use to make them somewhat equal to spellcasters. It's still not enough, but either way, it's an attempt at least, and so yeah, why not add that to the shield? Really cool stuff. In addition, we get defensive position. So while we're holding a shield, we can take a defensive position to make us harder to hit. At the start of our turn, we can dig in, and our speed becomes 0 until the start of our next turn. We gain a bonus to our armor class equal to the second wind column on our fighter features table, in addition to that already granted by the shield. Now, of course, this is kind of in conflict with the defense breaker, right? You're either taking offense or you're taking defense. And really, that's kind of the whole point of this subclass, right? Is that it is, do we want to go offensive with that shield, or would we rather go defensive with it? You're really not going to get both all the time. And so this is allowing you to choose, right? So you can either forego your movement, dig in, gain a big bonus, kind of like what a turtle might do. It's not as good as the turtle, obviously, but still, I think it's cool. I think it's really cool, and definitely can make you really hard to hit, and it's going to get a little bit better later on, and you'll see what I mean by that. At level 6, we're going to get weapon stabilization, which I think is an interesting way to interact with certain weapons and makes a lot of sense for a fighter. So with this, we're going to get two features. Number one, when we make an attack with a weapon that has the versatile property, we now treat the weapon as though it is being held with two hands, regardless of how many hands are holding onto it. This means that we're going to roll that higher die even if we have a shield in our hand, which is a normal, pretty big downside, and why we would normally not choose a versatile weapon with a shield. This gives us reason to think about doing both, which I think is cool. In addition to that, we also ignore the loading property on ranged weapons that lack the two-handed property. So this allows you to possibly use a hand crossbow with this. You're not going to need that second hand in order to reload because you're ignoring the loading property. At least that's how I'm intending this. If I need extra wording, I will add extra wording, but the intention is that you can just keep loading this even while you're holding a shield, and I like that. To be able to do both. That's kind of the idea. And there were a lot of problems with that in 2014. It was kind of clunky when it came to this. You couldn't really do it because your hand wasn't technically free. And so, yeah, in this way, I want your hand to be technically free so that you can load it in between your attacks and not suffer you can only make one attack per turn kind of thing. So yeah, that is what we got there. At level 10, we get bolstered defenses, so we can add our bonus to armor class granted by our shield to strength saving throws. This does include the bonus given by our defensive position feature as long as our speed is still 0. This, I think, makes a lot of sense. Again, if we're digging in, we probably should be pretty hard to move around, and so being able to boost our strength saving throws makes a lot of sense here. It's very simple, but I don't think it needs to be anything complicated. So yeah. Then at level 14, when we choose our shield as one of our weapon masteries, we can choose either the sap or slow mastery instead of push. In addition to that, on our turn, when we take the attack action, we can now choose to replace one of our weapon attacks with our shield instead. That is really cool as well because that's dealing a lot of damage. That's dealing a lot of damage at this point at level 14 because of how it scales. I think it's cool. I think it's a lot of fun, and being able to replace one of our attacks on our action, really neat. I think it's really cool. Finally, at level 18, Ultimate Protection. You may add the bonus to your AC granted by your shield to all saving throws. This includes the bonus given by defensive position. So again, you can dig in, and now it's going to protect everything. It's going to protect your body and your mind and really, really help you out in that way, which I think is it's cool. I think it's really, really fun. It's pretty powerful. I think this is a really good fighter. I think that anybody who uses this would really have a good time. And it's beating people up with a shield. Who doesn't want to do that, right? I think that's really fun. Okay, this next one, the Ranger. This is one I've been looking forward to talking about forever. I've had this idea for a really long time, even through 2014. This is kind of something I threw around and just never really committed to. And then when I was looking for options to do for this video, my wife actually brought this up to me as an idea, and I was like, man, now's the time. We're gonna have to make this happen. This is basically how can you make a Boy Scout into a Dungeons and Dragons subclass. And I've taken a very weird route with this. I've taken a very weird route. So when it comes to scouts, of course, you normally have little patches that you have that signify your achievements and what you have done or what you can do. You're going to get patches with this, and you're going to be able to switch out those patches to indicate what you can do, which is kind of interesting. I think it's a really cool way of marking your capabilities, but this is also going to be the most customizable Ranger ever, and I think it's really fun. I will say the features throughout this class are very lackluster because we are going to be relying very, very hard on our very, very, very beginning feature, which is, of course, giving us these patches. So let's jump in. At level 3, we're going to get a couple of things. Number 1, we're going to get Primal Connection. We gain proficiency in either nature or survival, and if we are proficient in both of these, then we can actually choose expertise in one or the other in there. So that's cool. But the main reason we're here is Wild Boons. We are going to get a number of these equal to the number on our favored enemy column. Again, similar to how we've done on the Shield-Maiden, and scaling it that way, which again I think is a really good way of scaling things. So that's why we're doing that. And so whenever we finish a long rest, we can actually replace one of those wild boons with a new one, but we get a number of them, again equal to the favored enemy column on there. So these are going to be small patches that show up somewhere on your clothing, and you can choose the appearance. Now of course on the document, this is a lot easier to see on the document because there are a lot of them, and I've got them split up into by level of ranger. So you're going to have a few that are available at level 3, you're going to get more at 7, more at 11, and more at 15, so that way you're not just getting everything at once and then it's a whole thing, right? So the only prerequisite is just levels, and that's it. So at level 3, we're going to get 4 options, and you're going to get 4 options at every level. Originally, I had 6, and I cut them down because I felt like that may be too much. So yeah, we got 4 at each level. So a lot of them. There are 16 total. So with this, number 1, we get Animal Thespian, which is we just have Speak with Animals prepared and can cast it without expending a spell slot. And once we do it, then you have to finish a long rest to do it again, or you can cast it with using a normal one. We get Bark Armor, which is +1 bonus to our AC while wearing armor. At number 3, we have Effortless Mark. When we cast Hunter's Mark using our favorite enemy feature, it does not require concentration. You better believe I'm throwing that in here because it's so stupid that we still have to concentrate on Hunter's Mark. That is the dumbest thing ever, and you better believe I'm targeting this. I'm making a whole subclass just so I can ignore that because it's dumb. So here we are doing that. And finally, First Aid. We gain proficiency in medicine checks. That's cool. So that's our start right there. And so at level 6, we're going to get some tool proficiencies. We gain proficiency in 2 tools from the following list: Carpenter Supplies, Cartographer's Supplies, Cook's Utensils, Gaming Set of one of those choices, Herbalism Kit, Navigator's Tools, Poisoner's Kit, or Woodcarver's Tools. And when we finish a long rest, we can replace one of those with a new one. Again, not that exciting. Tool proficiencies are not that exciting. But again, we're really looking at those wild boons, and to me, they are powerful enough to where I have to scale back those level by level features. Otherwise, this is going to be kind of ridiculous. So yeah, we're going to get access to 4 new ones here at this point. So we get Natural Athlete, proficiency in either athletics or acrobatics. We get Natural Resistance. While wearing armor, a creature has resistance to one of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant, or thunder. You can, of course, take this boon multiple times if you wanted to and gain a different resistance each time. So if you wanted to use every one of your wild boons on gaining a bunch of resistances, by all means, go for it. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd do that, but you can. Yeah, that's the only one that you can take multiple times. Just that one. All the other ones, you can only take once. We also get Weapon's Blessing. We choose one simple or martial weapon with which we are proficient, and it gains a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls that we make with it. And finally, Wild Companion, we get Find Familiar. Normally, of course, we do not get access to Find Familiar, and if you're not aware of how things have changed going into 2024, your summons, your familiar, is not actually a beast. It's either a celestial, fae, or fiend. I'm moving it back to a beast because it makes way more sense for a ranger to have a beast. So we're kind of going backwards to 2014 in that way. So yeah, we're doing beasts on this, and yeah, does it make it subject to some kind of some things? Yeah. Do I care? No, it makes more sense this way. And of course, we can't cast it more than once without taking a long rest, and then we can cast it normally with a spell slot and material components. Normally, we can ignore it once per day, but if we wanted to cast it again, we have to use the material components. So that is what it is. At level 11, we get Innate Detection, and so we get advantage on all saving throws that we make to avoid non-magical traps, natural or otherwise. So as long as it's a natural trap, we can avoid it. Again, at level 11, that's a pretty terrible feature. I get it. But again, we're getting a lot of stuff from wild boons, and that's really kind of where I have to focus this for balancing purposes. I think if I go crazy on those leveled features, this would just be insane. So at level 11, we're going to get Camping Master. We always have the Leomund's Tiny Hut spell prepared, and I love Leomund's Tiny Hut personally, so I had to throw it in here somewhere, and it's a tent, kind of. It's a dome. Right? Close enough. Yeah, but you're gonna keep your party safe while you're camping, so you can cast this once per day without expending a spell slot. And of course, if you want to do it again, you have to do a long rest. That whole thing. Improved Mark is our second one. Roll 1 additional die of the same type when calculating damage for your Hunter's Mark spell. That's a big one, and of course, I rolled it this way because it does actually improve at later levels. So you want to make sure that is scaling. Next is Weapon of the Wild. When you attack with a weapon whose mastery property you can use, you can replace that property with Graze, Sap, or Slow for that attack. And you can, of course, switch that up as you want to. Really good versatility feature there. I didn't want to go with Vex because that one is broken. I don't want to give every weapon that, so tried to keep it a little tamer with these. And then finally, Wings of the Sparrow. You gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed. So there you go. It's level 11. It's late. There are a lot of other subclasses that have gotten this away earlier, but either way, it's totally fine. And then finally, at level 15, we get Eagle's Honor. When we finish a long rest, roll a d20, and on a roll of 10 or higher, you are granted 1 additional wild boon for the day, and of course, you lose it when you finish your next long rest. So if you roll it again and then you pass it, great, you get it back. If not, you're back to the normal number. So yeah, definitely could be interesting. Again, trying to keep it tame here. Then the 4 we get here are Attack Master. You basically get to attack 3 times instead of once when we take the attack action, kind of borrowing something from the fighter. Of course, the fighter can do it better than us right now, but it's still not bad at all. We get Unseen Strike. We always have greater invisibility prepared. And all that language, we can do it without a spell slot, and of course we do it again after a long rest, or we can use spell slots, that kind of thing. We get Magic Regeneration. When we finish a short rest, we can regain a spell slot of 3rd level or lower, and once we do this again, we cannot do it again until we finish a long rest. And finally, Master of Mastery. We may choose 1 additional type of weapon when choosing weapons with which we have mastery. Kind of a weird way of wording it, but normally you can choose 2. This allows you to choose 3, which I think is cool. So we're kind of dipping into some fightery things, but we're a ranger, right? We kind of toe that line anyway, and so this allows you to kind of lean a little bit further into that, which I think is really, really cool. So again, let me know what you think of that one. All right, we're almost there. We got 2 more. Next up is the Rogue, and this is going to be called the Guided Mind Rogue. This is another really interesting option. This came from my wife, and my wife said, how can you make Kim Possible into a D&D character? And I said, well, I don't think there's really a great option for that necessarily. And so this is kind of the idea of there's a guy in the chair that is kind of helping you out. So again, this is sort of a like a warlock rogue, sort of. There's no like specific deity that you would have to get a deal with, and there's no pact or anything necessarily that's in the wording here. Just that something really likes you and wants to help you and that kind of thing, and it's very wide open for that, which I think is cool. And the way it works with the rogue is really cool. I also wanted to really lean into the way that Cunning Strike works now, because it's very cool and it's interesting. I like Sneak Attack being an expendable resource. I think it's interesting. So definitely cool. We're going to get into that here in just a second. So we're going to get 3 features at level 3. Number 1, Guiding Conduit. We're going to get a tiny magical trinket of whatever you want it to look like. And as long as the trinket is on your person, you can cast the guidance cantrip. I'm giving guidance out to several of these subclasses because it got nerfed, and so it doesn't hurt to give it out, so it's totally fine. At level 3, we get Researched Counsel, and whenever we finish a short or long rest, choose any skill or tool and gain proficiency in it, and of course it lasts until we choose a different one. So yeah, there you go. Then at level 3, again, we get Spot Weakness, and this is kind of our combat feature. So with this, as a bonus action, we can make a perception check, and that is contested by the armor class of the target. If we succeed, we can use our sneak attack against that creature, even if we don't have advantage on the attack roll, as long as we don't have disadvantage. This is very, very similar to the Inquisitive Rogue, although I would argue that it's slightly better. Now, there are certainly creatures where this is way worse if they have a really high AC, but for the most part, especially early on when you're fighting those things that have an AC of I don't know, 10, 12, 13, you're going to be succeeding a lot on this, and so I don't mind that so much. So it definitely is a cool way to go about this. It lasts for 1 minute, of course, or until you successfully use it on something else, but it makes a lot of sense to be able to be like, okay, analyze. You see the little the chip in the armor, and you're like, okay, cool, I can sneak attack with that. It makes a lot of sense. So that's why we've done that. At level 9, we get glimpses of the future. When we finish a long rest, we can choose one spell of 4th level or lower from the Divination School of Magic. Any spell list, doesn't matter, Divination School. You can cast that spell without using a spell slot or material components. Once we do it, we can't do it again until we finish a long rest. That's it. One 4th level spell of your choice of the Divination School. There are a lot of good options, nothing game breaking in my opinion. 5th level is where you get a little tricky, and so I didn't quite want to push it that far. But yeah, for 4th level and below, I think it's perfectly fine to do that. I don't think there's anything too crazy. And also we get Guiding Voice at this point, and we get the following Cunning Strike option. Unerring Accuracy. It has a cost of 1d6, and so for Cunning Strikes, the way that these work now is that whenever you make the attack, you can forego however many d6s of sneak attack damage, and you can gain a secondary effect, right? There's one that poisons, there's one that knocks prone, there's one that allows you to run away, there's all kinds of stuff here, right? And so with this, it allows you to actually roll that d6 and add it to your attack roll. So you roll the attack, you miss, then you get to roll this and possibly hit at the cost of some damage. So I think it's good. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's very similar to the Battlemaster Fighter, but still, I think it's fine. I think it's definitely worth having here. And again, that is the guy in the chair saying, "Oh, it's about to jump. It's about to jump to the left. It's about to jump to the right. Make sure you aim that way," and that gives you that bonus to help you out there, which I think is cool. Level 13, we get Magical Infusion, and this is basically like your Super Spy gadgets. So you get some cool gadgets, and I think this is cool. We get more Cunning Strike options. Number 1, we get Sapping Strike. This has a cost of 5d6, and we roll those d6s and heal that many hit points. Again, this has to hit first, and you're not dealing nearly as much damage, but you're healing it. You can only do that once per short or long rest, though. That's going to be a limited one just because of the healing. Then we get Darkest Day as the second one. The target must succeed on a dexterity saving throw, or you can create a 10-foot emanation of magical darkness centered on the target. And of course, this effect is going to end at the end of its next turn. Definitely could be interesting, a way to take something out of the fight, or if one of your allies can see through magical darkness, that's great. Definitely could be really strong there. It also could be detrimental, so just be very, very careful with that. And finally, Pulsing Force. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed 10 feet away from you. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy on that. And finally, level 17, we get All Seeing. So as a bonus action, we can grant ourselves a flying speed, so that's our jetpack, right? Another gadget. And that can last for 10 minutes. We do have hover, and we cannot use this again until we finish a short or long rest, or until we choose to use our Cunning Strike feature and pay 8d6 on an attack. Then we can get this back. Definitely could be cool, and to me it's definitely worth it. Next up, our initiative cannot be lowered as a result of surprise. Again, we can look around, and surprise was changed because it is no longer going to be the it's no longer going to be the you don't take an action, whatever. You just get a detriment to your initiative. That's it, right? This just prevents you from having that, which is cool. And finally, while we have our flying speed granted by this feature, if a creature within 60 feet of us is making an attack against us, we can force the creature to make a wisdom saving throw using the same DC for Cunning Strikes. And on a failure, the creature's attack just simply misses. On a success, the creature is immune to this for 24 hours. So again, this is kind of the reflective panels while you're flying over. This is trying to make sure that the creature misses you on the attack, which I think is cool. I think is really, really interesting, and definitely for a 17th level feature, I don't mind that at all. And finally, we have our wizard. This is a very interesting wizard, and I don't know how many of you are going to like this, but this is the Astrology wizard. This is the College of Astrology. And yeah, we're a stars wizard, which is cool. So right, we have a stars druid, and of course there's a lot of spelljammer things. But here we are being a star obsessed wizard, which is kind of cool. Is it powerful though? I think so. This one might be insane. I might have pulled a Matt Mercer. We'll find out. So with this, number one, we're going to get a couple of things. We're going to get Astral Knowledge. So when we finish a long rest, we gain proficiency in one skill or tool of our choice. You know, it is what it is. And so it lasts until we use the feature again. Pretty standard stuff, especially when it comes to space-related things, right? Then we also get Astral Rift. This is the one that you may or may not like, and you may think that this is too powerful, and we're just gonna have to see what happens. So as a magic action, you can create a rift in space that is just a small 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet little kind of orb or square or whatever you want it to be, and then it creates an emanation from it that is 20 feet. Right, you get 30 foot of range on that center, 20 foot of the actual emanation, and then anything that is within that emanation of your choice, of course. And then, of course, anything that is within that emanation then needs to make a strength saving throw, or if it is within it or starts its turn within it, it also has to make that saving throw. If it fails the saving throw, then it is going to be pulled 10 feet toward the center of that actual thing. You're creating kind of like a tiny black hole, essentially. It's a gravity kind of thing. So we're kind of pulling some Graviturgist Wizard. We'll see how this goes. But that's kind of what it is. And then if you do get within 5 feet of that center, you fall prone. That's where things are going to get really gnarly, because then you're going to be in a spot where you might get infinitely stuck. You might get infinitely stuck if you keep rolling poorly on your strength checks, which could be kind of tough. Now at higher levels, obviously there are going to be a lot more levels of success with that, I think. But at low levels, this is going to wreak havoc. It's going to be crazy. Of course, we can choose a number of creatures equal to our intelligence mod to ignore the features, and we can use this only once per long rest, or unless we expend a second level spell slot or higher to use it again. I think it's cool. I think having that really gnarly gravity type of effect can be really strong. And I think it could be really cool. Again, I'm focusing on this a lot for battlefield control, which is very, very important. At level 6, we get Spatial Shift, and I like this a lot too. So with this, we get the Misty Step spell, Always Prepared, which we've had access to for a while, right? And so we can cast it without using a spell slot a number of times equal to our Intelligence modifier. That's really good. I like that. In addition, when we are hit with an attack, spell, or effect that would deal damage to us, we can choose to cast this spell as a reaction. Now, again, this is using up one of our uses. It's not just free, but instead of an action. When we cast it in this way, we can choose a number of creatures within 30 feet of us equal to our intelligence modifier to be pulled towards the point that we are teleporting from. Each creature then makes a strength saving throw, or it is pulled 10 feet toward the point that we teleported from. We regain all expended uses on a long rest, and we can, of course, cast the spell normally using a spell slot as a bonus action. This could be cool, right? Again, we're looking at forced movement, and that is where this is. And again, you could also do this to your allies, right? If you get hit, you could pull an ally out of somebody's range, which could be really interesting positioning-wise. Definitely a lot of uses for this, and I think it's really, really cool. And yeah, we could have just made a special teleportation feature and made this work. Instead, I'm just going to tie it to Misty Step, but you can look at it either way. There are plenty of things out there that do something like this, but yeah, I think that this is really cool. Then at level 10, we get Fatal Attraction. The size of the emanation is going to grow by 10 feet, so total of 30. And in addition, when we hit a creature with a spell, we can now move it horizontally up to 10 feet. If the creature is unwilling, of course, it needs to make a strength saving throw against our spell DC in order to resist it. And once we have used this feature successfully, we have to use a short or long rest in order to get it back. Again, not too shabby, but this, again, could possibly shove something into that gravity that is just on the outside of it, and then possibly cause an infinite loop on that, which could be really interesting. And finally, level 14, we get Planar Burst. And this is where everything goes nuts. So whenever a creature is being affected by our Astral Rift, it now has disadvantage on all weapon attacks. In addition, as a bonus action on your turn, you can cause a harmful pulse to come out of the rift. Creatures affected by the Astral Rift must make a dexterity saving throw or take 2d10 force damage and be moved 5 feet towards the center of the emanation. And again, if you were 10 feet out, you get moved 5 feet in, now you're prone again. So there's a lot there, right? There's a lot there. Again, there's a saving throw involved, but you get to just spam this as long as things are inside it as your bonus action, which I think is really, really cool. So that is all for our homebrew things for 2024, at least right now. Again, if you have suggestions for other homebrew things, let me know down in the comments below. If you have suggestions for other things you would like to see me cover on the channel, again, hit me up down below. The comment section is wide open for you. Again, hit me up on Discord. I'm very active on there, so I'll be around. And of course, thank you all so much for watching this. Later this week, we will be continuing on with UNPL for week 5. And then next week, we're going to get started back with how do I want to do this, unless I get a better idea to maybe do the UA or something like that. In the meantime, we'll see. But until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.